Hello and welcome to Trad Jazz Today. Dan Zeilinger has been a world-traveling trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of his most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at the Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials around the world. Dan has met many people during his career and has spent many hours on and off stage with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on weekends with their friends. They all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, Dan will be sharing them with you. Now, Dan Zeilinger.
Hi there, this is Dan Zeilinger with Trad Jazz Today. My next guest is somebody who I've admired for a very long time. She's done everything and played with everybody pretty much. Most famously in my circle of friends, she did hit the festival circuit with BED, which was, of course, Eddie Erickson and Dan Barrett, who are both dear friends of mine. And she's done everything from play at the Riverwalk with Jim Cullum's band, and she's a honoree of the Portland Music Hall of Fame. She's played at Carnegie Hall, and I shouldn't be interviewing her. She's way above my pay grade. But here she is, Miss Becky Kilgore. Hi, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
It's so good to see you. Most of the people I interview, I haven't seen in 40 years plus, so we're right in there as far as this channel was actually my son's idea. I was sitting here in the house doing nothing, and he said, "You know, Dad, you got to talk to these people you've met because nobody believes the people you know." So there you have it. That's what happened with this.
Okay.
So I understand you were born in Waltham, Massachusetts.
That's correct.
Wow. It's kind of on the other side of the world from where I am. I'm currently in Anaheim, so it's up there. How long were you there?
Well, I was born there, and I emigrated to Portland in about 1980.
Okay, so you went to high school in Massachusetts.
Yes, I did.
Were you involved with the vocal programs there when you were in school and things?
There wasn't much of a vocal program at Waltham High, but I did get interested in folk music, and I got a folk guitar, and so I joined the folk club, and we were singing stuff like Joan Baez and Judy Collins and stuff like that.
Sure. Great stuff.
Yeah.
But you didn't necessarily get all the way to the Pete Seeger and the really grassroots folk?
Well, the first song I learned on guitar, I taught myself from a book from the library, This Land Is Your Land. And that was pretty easy because it's got like 3 chords.
Oh, yeah.
And that was fun. So I was listening to the Beatles at the time on the radio, and I found this station that played a lot of Beatles stuff. And then I don't know if I tuned in early or tuned in late, but I got a guy playing old Billie Holiday's music and Ella Fitzgerald and all these great vocalists. Then I took a complete detour, and all I wanted to listen to was old music from that era, the big band singers and small group singers.
How old were you when music sort of flipped a switch in your brain? You said, "This is something I might like to do." 6, 7? What do you think?
Let's see. My dad was a musician. He was the choir director at our church, and so we had music in the house, but it wasn't like a family thing. We didn't play together, and so, my sister and I used to play the recorder. We would play duets, so that was fun. And I sang in the church choir, and that was fun. But it wasn't until I moved to Portland that my musical life switched on, because I was when I actually, after I visited my sister who had moved out there first, uh, I just fell in love with Portland. It was so friendly. It's a beautiful city and a lot of green parks, and it's just great. So I thought, well,
It's a great food town, if nothing else.
yeah, well, not since quarantine, but but so I moved out there, and my sister rented an apartment with me for a while, and she was working for a local newspaper, and I was kind of lonely because I didn't know anyone besides my sister, so I started going to hear music, live music, and I heard a group, and I don't you're probably not familiar with this group because it's before bed. It was a group called Holy Cats, which is we got the name from Benny Goodman's song. It's spelled Whollylcats, and it was a little group led by Chris Tyle on cornet, Dan Presley on bass, and a woman named Sid Smith on guitar and vocals, and oh geez, and a saxophone player. So Bud Gerlach was his name. So I befriended Sid Smith because I play guitar and I sing and I love Billie Holiday. I love old songs. So she and I became friends. And then she decided to quit that band, and she said, you should do what I was doing. And I said, but I'm not I'm not a professional. And so I had a kind of a rehearsal audition with the rest of the band, and that was fun. That worked out well, and so I worked with them for like 5 years, and we were right at the crest of a wave where people were starting to go down to downtown Portland. It was becoming the hip place to go, and and there was a new club called Fathers, which was kind of based upon the old black and white movies where there was a stage and there were tables around.
Sure.
It was like a nightclub,
Yeah,
and
dining club type of thing.
yeah, and they had great food and great music, and every once in a while they would bring in a national act, and Holy Cats, being the house band there, we played 6 nights a week, which is unheard of now. So that's how I got to meet Dave Frischberg, because he was living in California, and he came up and did a show there, and we in the band we opened for him, and then after, and I fell in love with his humor and his wit and his piano playing, and yeah, it was just great. So we all stayed after his show and talked to him, and we talked, did you know?
I was just going to mention on Dave Frischberg that he was a real cult hero to a lot of us of that generation. Uh,
Mhm.
we would catch a cut or two of his maybe on Dr. Demento or a few other things.
Schoolhouse Rock?
Yeah, and just great stuff. But he was kind of under the radar
Yeah, he was.
in a lot of ways.
He's never been a self-promoter, but he's played all over. He's played all over the world. And he and his wife decided to move to Portland because he played at Father's, and then he also played at a place called the Jazz Quarry in Portland, and he liked it. And so I think it was 1985 he moved here, and let's see, the Holy Cats had broken up by then, and I had another group, and I had a steady gig in a suburb of Portland, and my piano player couldn't make it, And so I thought, well, I can call Dave and maybe, the worst he can do is say no. So he said, sure. So he came and played, and um, it was great fun. And everyone in town loved him. He was very, very loved and honored. And what I was trying to think of is Zoot Sims. We said,
Okay.
Dave, did you know Zoot Sims? And he said, yeah, I recorded with him and played with them a lot. And so, we were just all name dropping. That's how.
Oh, okay. I know a bunch of the guys up in Oregon in the trad circles, like Kid Johnson and the Black Swan Band and those guys.
Mhm.
But they're in that general. My whole family's actually talking about migrating up there now, but
Oh, wow.
we're not sure what's happening. So you like it up there?
I do, although there's protesting going on all the time downtown, and there's violence and destruction. I just don't know what's going on.
Well, let's go back and talk about happier times.
Yes, please. So
So
I made the trad circuit and got to play with Hal Smith on drums. You must know him.
oh yeah, I just interviewed Ted DePlant,
Oh,
and he was talking about Hal, and he was talking about the trumpet player you just mentioned.
well, Chris Tyle.
Yeah, Chris Tyle, and he comes up in a lot of conversations actually.
Yeah, he doesn't play anymore. He got an inheritance and he moved to France. And
Money will screw up a musician every time.
well, that wasn't the reason he stopped playing. He had some health problems. But yeah, see, I'm sort of in touch with him by Facebook and stuff. But he lives right in the center of France. Like, I was in Paris a couple of years ago, and I didn't have time to go find him.
Yeah. I don't know if you know Gary Kaiser.
Yes.
Yeah, I've interviewed him. He's an old friend of mine too, of course, over there in France as well.
Ah, I didn't know that. How about, do you know Ray Shelbred?
I don't know him personally. No, I know who he is though.
Now he's up in Seattle now, and I've worked with him a lot, and I really enjoy him. He's great.
Now, when you start playing guitar and piano,
Nope, not piano.
oh, I thought you played piano also.
No.
Oh. So let's. When did you start playing guitar?
Well, back when I was in high school and I was into folk music, but then after I heard these old singers and that kind of music, I took some lessons from a student at Berklee College of Music in Boston, and he taught me just some basic jazz chords, and that's sustained me through now. But I don't even play guitar much anymore because I'm playing with piano players who are doing very sophisticated voicings, and my little guitar playing doesn't really add anything. So I just want to concentrate on singing.
No, that's not. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, uh, I'm sorry. The caboose just left the train. Let's talk about some of the gigs you've done, or some of the notoriety. As what were you doing at Carnegie Hall?
Well, Michael Feinstein was hired to do a show on the movies of Bing Crosby and Bob Hope. So the music from those movies. So he hired a bunch of singers, and I was one of them. And I did that with John Sheridan. You know him from the Jim Cullum Band?
Right.
Yeah, so it was just the two of us, and
Again.
okay.
We were talking about Michael Feinstein at Carnegie Hall. What was he like to work with?
Oh, he's very professional and very kind, very nice person, very nice man.
No, he comes
And
across great on media. I mean, I've seen many of his concerts on TV.
yeah, and I just came out with a new CD, and I asked him very sheepishly, "Would you mind, listening and giving me a quote?" And he did, and it's a very nice quote, so I'm very happy about that.
that's that's always interesting. I did an album with Dan and Brian Shaw, and we were the Southern Comfort Band. I was a tuba player on that band
Oh,
back in the day. I don't know if you Howard Alden was on that band, and they the our advertising agency asked to get a record review from Al Hurt,
mm,
and they paid him, of course. And his comment was, "It swings its ass." Of course, so they couldn't use the comment, but
oh. Well, I assure you, Michael Feinstein didn't say anything remotely like that.
I would think so somehow. Um, but you never. My point is that you never know what you're going to get when you do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm booting up your the notes I took for you. I actually research all of my interviews as thoroughly as I can, so I don't have anything on my face when I come out of it. Um, but that never happens. I always stick my foot in my mouth one way or another. Um, what can I say? Oh, tell me about your performance with the Statesman of Jazz.
Oh gosh, that was in Florida at the University of Miami, I think. I'm not sure, but it was a one-shot deal, and it was really really fun, really great. Randy Sandkey on trumpet. Was it Houston Person on sax? Since it was just a one-off, I don't really remember the personnel too well, but it was really fun.
So, have you ever walked into a gig that you've taken where they're supplying the band, and you don't have to get into particulars, but it was just awful? The band. I was just curious, or does your enough of your reputation precede you that they know better?
I, I
No
I have
problems, huh?
no, I've never had a disaster, but I'm trying to think. Hmm. Well, at the Sacramento Jazz Traditional Jazz Festival,
The Jubilee, yeah.
yeah, the Jubilee. Uh, there was, let's see, there was some band that wanted me to sing with them, and I had never played with them. But who's a drummer? Is his name Jones, Ron Jones, or something? Anyway, have you played at the Jubilee?
Oh, yeah, about 20 times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that was a little iffy, but it was still fun. That's the thing I like about jazz. You can make it fun no
Yeah.
matter what.
And one thing about being a tuba player is you tend to be in the back line, and the people don't realize. For example, I was with Misbehaving Jazz Band for a very long time. And then I followed that up. I was in the Hot Frogs at the end of their run. I don't know, remember if you remember those guys.
I remember the name.
Yeah. And I was the original tuba player with Banjo Mania.
Hmm.
And somehow or another, 10th Avenue was the last band I was in with Ed Zimbrick.
Wow.
So, but you never notice the tuba player is what I'm saying. It's funny as I do this show, the people who are most forthcoming about wanting to do it are tuba players and banjo players, and I think because they're always sitting in the back line type of thing.
Yeah.
But um, that's just my own perception. Oh, here's one I need to ask you about. How strange was Roswell Jazz Festival?
Not strange at all. It was
No,
really fun.
no
They
little green fans running around or
no, no, but they do
UFOs in
have
the red.
an alien museum, and so Harry Allen, who has a great sense of humor, he went there and got these weird glasses, sunglasses or something and he wore them through the rest of the weekend.
That's great. You have so many accolades. It's hard as I go through them here. Uh, you were honored as a jazz legend at the San Diego Festival
Yes.
in what was it, 2016?
Yes.
That must have been nice. That's a good festival.
Oh, it's great. It's great. And I think they're going to have it in 22.
I haven't, yeah, I personally haven't heard yet because I'm not playing with any festival bands currently. But I think my festival days are done. Just, especially when you have to carry around a horn, like
Oh, yeah.
with that size. Excuse me.
Do you have any local gigs?
I had a regular Friday up until this time last year. Well, I was playing with a bunch of different guys at a casual kind of kicks gig, but it was nice. It kept me playing and kept my face on the mouthpiece, and we had people come in and out of that job. I still Larry Wright is one of the guys who plays that one every so often, and I don't know Jeff Beaumont, Phil Landrine, who was out of the San Diego Jazz Group.
Hmm.
A lot of those guys are still around. Robbie Rhodes, piano
Okay.
player, and so I still get to play with good players. But I spent 40 years on the road, and actually about maybe to be a little more realistic, probably about 20, and 10 of that was traveling with 10th Avenue worldwide. And sousaphone gets to you after that,
Mm.
I'm sure you know. Um, People you recorded with, of course, Dave Frischberg, uh,
Hmm.
Harry Allen.
Hmm.
Who else do you have on here? Oh, Dan Barrett. He's a slacker. No, Dan is actually the guy who got me into the style of music. We
Oh,
went
wow.
we went to college together.
Well, actually, I'm going to see him tomorrow. I'm flying to Costa Mesa.
Oh, well, you're right in my neighborhood. Then I'm in Anaheim, so
Oh, well, I'm sure when I tell him that I had this interview, he'd say,
he'd say
"Can
Dan who? No, I'm kidding.
you?" No, I'm sure he'd have nice things to say. He's always a gentleman.
Yeah, I when I think of his face, I think of his laugh.
Yeah,
Type of.
yeah. And
What, so
then
what are you doing down here? You gonna do some recording with him?
no, it's a personal business thing. It's a long story, so I won't even
Oh,
go
that's
into it.
okay.
I'm not going to play any music or hear any music. I'm just in and out.
Yeah, he and I talked before all of this hit, I guess about a year ago, and he was talking about moving up to Portland. Yeah,
Yeah, but I think he's a little scared away because of the uh, protest I was telling you about.
yeah,
And the house prices are very high, and he's got a budget that he has to stay within.
yeah.
But he's thinking about other cities as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of very nice places up in the Northwest,
Yeah,
and a lot of places I wouldn't want to live. But that's everywhere.
yeah,
Okay, who else do we have on this list? Let's see. John Sheridan, Dave Frischberg, Nicky Perot,
yes.
Rosano Sportiello.
Hmm.
Any of those names have any comments that need to come from you about them? And
Oh, I love them all. I love Rossano. I met him in Ascona, Switzerland at the Ascona Jazz Festival that I was there with Dan Barrett's band, which was called, what was it called? Blue Swing. And uh, we had just recorded a CD at Brian Shaw's, as a matter of fact. This was years ago. And so Rossano was in a local band playing piano, and he was in his 30s, I think, or maybe 20s. And Dan, he just he just heard Rossano and he was mesmerized. And he said, "Becky, we're going to have Rossano sit in with us. Is that okay?" And I said, "Yeah." So he did, and I'll never forget his. He's a serious musician for sure, but he has this laugh.
Yeah, oh, yeah. My favorite time when he laughs is when he laughs at something he played.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about? He'll
yeah,
play something and it'll tickle himself. He'll go,
yeah,
"Ba-da-da-da-da."
yeah,
Great fun.
yeah. So Rosano moved to New York, married a New Yorker, and lives there now. And but he still travels a lot. He works with a band. What do they call it? The Three Wise Men in Europe a lot. And at first, Dan got him some gigs in California when after we met in Ascona, and Rossano was so nervous about flying. He hadn't flown that distance ever. So I was down there, and when we picked him up, he said, "Oh, I don't feel so good. My stomach hurts." So for the whole time he was there, we had to make sure that he got boiled potatoes and eggs. I don't think he'd mind me saying that, but he's just he's a genius. He really is, and I love his playing, and I love his enthusiasm for music, and he's great.
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I watch a lot of his videos, and his joy shows.
Yeah.
You know, it's it just shows through the camera. Uh, he, and that's really important when you especially when you're playing jazz and you look like you enjoy what you're doing.
Oh yeah, that's
I mean, that
important.
may sound simplistic to some people, but we all know jazz players who just don't look like they're enjoying themselves,
Right, right.
and those who do. Speaking of people who enjoy themselves, now tell me what it was like to work with Eddie so much. I love Eddie. I've been trying to get him on the show, and he doesn't reply to my inquiries. So
Oh geez. Well, what can I say? I love Eddie Erickson. He's one of a kind. He's a great musician, but he doesn't believe that he is. He
yeah,
says
I've
I'm
talked to Bill Dendle at length about this.
Yeah, he says I'm just ham and bologna.
Yeah, I know, and a lot of us have tried to explain to him because I met him through Bill Dendle. Actually, the first time I met him was at the Banjo-Rama in
Mhm.
Sacramento, and they had heard me play somewhere and asked me if I wanted to go on stage at the Banjo-Rama and sit in with him. And so, what does Bill Dendle do? He calls all the things you are.
Oh no.
The very first time I ever played with the guy, and I told him that on our interview, and he goes, "Oh, that was nice of me, wasn't it?" But they continued to give me work after that, so I must have done okay.
Hmm.
And then I played with Eddie a lot with Big Mama Sue. I actually
Nice.
subbed for Westy when he couldn't do it with them. And so I've actually spent some time in the trenches with Eddie and just loved every moment of being with him on stage, you know?
Hmm. How could you not? As I say, he's a great musician, but
He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal.
I know
No, I think the
he's got
reason
great instincts.
I think the reason he doesn't believe it is because he is it. He doesn't have to work at it. He didn't have to study about it.
Hmm.
He is he is what I would consider a true jazz musician, where
Yeah.
it just is. And people who are that way don't give themselves credit for what they know. You know.
Hmm.
So
I
does that
would
sound accurate to you?
I would agree with that. Yes.
Anyway, this interview is about you, though. We've talked about everybody else.
Well,
What would
uh,
in the best of all worlds? What would you like to be doing musically right now? Forget
oh,
about reality for a moment.
okay. Well, I was really happy doing some shows at Feinstein's at the Regency in New York on Park Avenue with Harry Allen's group. And that was Rossano, Joel Forbes on bass, and Chuck Riggs on drums, and of course Harry. And I did this for 3 years, uh, for maybe 3 or 4 nights, um, in August, and that was great. And the deal was that we had to come up with a theme to package the show. And let's see, the first one was Billie Holiday and Lester Young. And Matt Domber came with his wife, the owners of Arbor's Records, because they travel a lot and they wanted to see it. And they said, "Oh, this is great! This is great! Let's record it." And so the next night, he arranged for his engineers to be there with all this sound equipment, and it. We recorded it, and it was a CD.
Do you
And
remember? Do you remember what tunes you did on that CD?
well, my mother's son-in-law. Oh, geez, that old devil called love. Ugh. Them Their Eyes, I think. Uh,
No, it's not important. I was just, uh, I know the Billie Holiday book fairly well. And I was just wondering which one of the tunes you got to cover that night.
well,
So,
I wanted to start at the beginning. I think my mother's son-in-law is the first one she ever went into a studio and recorded. I'm not sure about that, but I think.
now, did you do those as yourself, or were you trying to affect some Billie Holiday?
No, I was not trying to sound like Billie Holiday.
Excellent.
I love the songs she sings, and I just wanted to, I told a little bit about her because I had done some research, but it was just a show of fun songs that I liked that she did.
I think she's another one of those people who just her talent just was what it is. You know,
Hmm.
she didn't go to school. She didn't have vocal coaches. She
Oh,
didn't.
she probably couldn't even read music.
Yeah.
And then the next show we did was uh, the music of Some Like It Hot, the music of Marilyn Monroe,
Oh,
and
that's unexpected.
she was a really good singer, and she sang in some movies, and she did some just standalone recordings, and I just loved researching that. I love doing research, and
I had understood that a lot of her movie stuff was dubbed, but then I saw the USO stuff she did, and yeah, she was a great singer
yeah, she swung and she sang in tune. What more can you ask?
and sold it.
Yeah, well,
No, I mean that's an important contingent, you know.
I know. But she had a quote that, I want people to like my singing not because of the way I look or something like that.
And she felt the same about her acting too.
Oh,
I mean, she was very serious about being an actress,
right.
and they kept giving her the same roles over and over and over again until
Hmm.
like the Misfits and some of her later stuff.
Hmm.
Anyway, I know too much about Marilyn.
And then then the last one I did was, we called it the jazzy side of Judy Garland.
Good.
And man, talk about a prolific recording artist. I had hundreds and hundreds of songs to choose from. And I always shy away from the more famous ones. Like I didn't sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, but Harry played that as an instrumental, and it was great. And
A lot of Harold Arlen tunes, right?
oh yeah, oh yeah, and The Man That Got Away, I did sing that one because I like it, and there's an interesting story behind it, which I don't know if I remember well enough to tell. And then Feinstein's closed, and then there was a cabaret venue called the Metropolitan Room. So the next year I did a show there called I Like Men, and it's all songs about men. What uh, for every man there's a woman. Oh, and I made a CD out of that too. Gosh, I should have my notes in front of me.
I saw that on your resume. The I Like Men, and I found that very interesting, especially in this day and age.
Right. Well, it was a song that Peggy Lee wrote, and it's a good little song, and I like it. So
Well, I think that's enough reason for me.
okay.
I've it's interesting trying to negotiate. Sometimes negotiate these interviews with today's sensibilities, especially when you're talking about jazz.
Hmm.
I think that's all I need to say as you nod your head up and down.
Yeah.
And it depends on who it is on the other side of the camera. But Bob Ringwald, do you know Bob?
Yes.
I was talking about the fact that the only reason the show is called Trad Jazz Today is because it's politically incorrect anymore to say Dixieland.
Oh.
And at the end of his interview, he says, "I'm going to say Dixieland anyway." I said, "You can say whatever you want to, Bob."
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that's that. I was looking for your notes again. Where did I put them? Oh, there you are. I'm trying to read it off of an iPad.
Oh, geez.
Who else am I curious about? Oh, God. Speaking of geniuses, how about Dick Hyman?
He's very he works everything out. He's very demanding. He knows what he wants, and so I was very intimidated through working with him. But I think it went okay. Oof. It was
His harmonic ears take him in interesting places. I would imagine as a vocalist, sometimes it would be hard to go if you're getting a transition that you're not used to.
Yeah.
But
so this was a festival on the Oregon coast, and I sang. This was a medley of songs by Frank Sinatra, and it was beautifully arranged, beautifully done. And Ken Poplawski was on it too, and Mark Varenkamp. Do you know him?
yeah.
So he was on it as well, and let's see who else. I can't remember, but as I said, it was a little nerve-wracking, and boy, Dick Hyman, I don't think he's ever going to die. He's just had heart surgery, and he's in his 90s.
That's amazing. Speaking of in the 90s, I don't know if you know Chet Yeager. He was the leader
No.
of a band called the Night Bloom and Jasmine here in Southern California.
No.
Anyway, I interviewed him, and he's still playing cornet at 96.
Gee.
Yeah, it makes us all look bad. So
Yeah.
that's all I have to say about him. Tell me about the differences between playing with the two Pizzarellis.
Well, they often go hand in hand. I recorded a CD with John Pizzarelli's trio, and Bucky was on it as well. And Bucky's another. He is jazz. He hears the music and he just wants to jump. It's like nourishing for him. I remember we were in the control room, and the guys in the band were just kind of messing around and playing in a mellow tone for the fun of it. And he said, "Oh, I got to get in on this," and he went in there and started playing. Oh, I miss Bucky. And John's great, and his wife Jessica's great, and
Yeah, I was just curious. haven't had the chance to play with either one of them, um, but that's because I'm a tuba player. So what do you say? What can you say? Well, is there anything that you have that's available for sale? Records or albums or?
Look at this. This is my latest. It's just out
And where can people find it?
on my website, RebeccaKilgore.com.
And who's on it?
It's this is my local Portland group. Randy Porter is a fantastic piano player, and Tom Wakeling is a fantastic bass player. And we've been working on and off. Jazz musicians, you have to freelance, you have to get what you can. But we have something that we think is special. And so, we kept saying, we got to record, but everyone's so busy. And so during quarantine, we did it. And we did it in Randy Porter's studio. And he was very cautious about distancing and wearing masks and stuff. So it came out great. And this is the one that has the Michael Feinstein quote. And it's called, by the way, it's called the Rebecca Kilgore Trio Volume 1.
Haha.
We hope there'll be more.
So we can look forward to another 11 volumes.
Yeah, I hope so.
What are some of the tunes you covered?
Oh, well, let's see. I wanted to do a Dave Frishberg song for sure, so I chose Dear Bix, which is pretty obscure.
I don't know it.
Yeah. And that's an imaginary, not conversation, but imaginary tale that Hoagie Carmichael is telling to Bix Beiderbecke. And the words are just great. It starts off, Bix, old friend, are you ever going to comprehend? You're no ordinary standard B-flat, run-of-the-mill type guy. Oh my, no. And it just goes on, and it's very heartwarming. Okay, day in, day out. Run, little raindrop, run. Azure Tay. Talking to Myself About You, that's a song I learned from Peggy Lee. Old Soft Shoe, that is a song by Ray Brown. I Want to Get Married, that's from Nellie McKay. Like the Brightest Star, that was written by Harry Allen with lyrics by Greg Oppenheimer. That Sunday, That Summer. The Gentleman is a Dope. Rogers.
Is that an answer to Lady is a Tramp?
Yeah, right. Because We're Kids, that's a song by Dr. Seuss. And it's from a movie called The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
I remember that movie.
Oh, yeah, well. And it ends with There's a Small Hotel, Rodgers and Hart.
Wow, there's only I think there's only two tunes on there that I can call. That's great.
Great.
I think if your further volumes are that eclectic, it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Well, one critic said that the Because We're Kids song, it just doesn't fit because she's an urbane singer and.
Oh, what do they know? I don't know. I've been wanting to do something with the music of Mr. Rogers.
Oh, definitely.
Because his stuff is very hip. The Don Acosta arrangements and the tunes that he did. And I tell people that they said, "You're crazy. That's kids' music." I said, "You haven't been listening."
Really, it's very sophisticated.
Although he does have some signature turnarounds, it's still neat stuff and unexpected if with that name on it. Kind of like the Dr. Seuss thing.
Yeah. Well, I can send you a care package of some CDs if you'd like.
Oh, I would be forever grateful. After we sign off here, stay on. I'll just tell you when, and I'll give you my an address. Yes. I'll give you my home address. We've locked up. If you can still hear me, I'll email you my address, and I would love a care package of what you've done. I don't know what's going on with my computer. It's been really weird all day today. Anyway, I would love a care package. I will email you my home address.
Okay.
Let me say thank you for interviewing, and I
Well, you're very relaxed and animated, and it's fun talking to you.
well, if you get a chance to take a look at some of the other interviews, just because there's so many of your friends on here, I think you don't have to watch it all. They're all about an hour long, except for Larry Wright, and I had 3 hours with him. But
Jeez.
But he did. I split it up into two.
Okay.
Some people have more. Bill Dendel took 2 interviews. Some people just take more interviews.
Yeah.
All right, ma'am. Thanks so much. I hope we get a chance to run into each other at some unsuspecting festival.
Mm-hmm.
And you take care now.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for watching Trad Jazz Today. Dan posts new interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure to check out the archive of past shows, and please give us a thumbs up when you subscribe to the channel. Bye.